Welcome. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
You're welcome to our session today. Happy Eid.
Happy too.
We are going to start right away. Today we have Dr. Miriam going to take us through our topic of today, which is autism versus dyslexia. This topic actually came up because in every workshop that we do as Dyslexia Tanzania, we always get this question. People confuse autism and dyslexia. So after you explain dyslexia and how it affects people and what we should do to support them, always there is a participant who asks, is that not autism? So they feel like the explanation for dyslexia can also apply for autism. It's a question we always get. There's no workshop we have done, and people have not asked us if dyslexia is not autism. So we thought it's a good topic to cover. But also today, I would like to ask everyone attending, if there's a topic you would like us to cover, you can let us know, and we will organize. So we are privileged today to have Dr. Miriam to take us through this topic, autism versus dyslexia. We are basically going to learn how to differentiate the two, and of course, much more. Dr. Miriam, you're welcome. I'm not going to introduce you so much. I would love that you introduce yourself so that you can introduce yourself in detail. Thank you so much for offering to take us through this session, and we welcome you to start the session. Dr. Miriam, karibu sana.
Thank you, Caudins. I hope you can all hear me correctly. As she has mentioned, my name's Miriam Loivotoki Elisha. Yes, I have PhD in inclusive education, and I've specifically focused on autism. And because it's quite, as she has mentioned, it's quite difficult for people to differentiate between autism and dyslexia. It has been a challenge across all neurodevelopmental disorders for people to differentiate them. So I actually had to deal with all neurodevelopmental disorder at a certain point, because it was quite hard to do a study in a place where people don't understand what is autism, what is dyslexia, particularly in Tanzania, where we are in the awareness stage. So much of the knowledge about neurodevelopmental disorder is new. It has not been so much into people's minds, and yeah, so we are still learning, and we are here to learn autism and in connection with dyslexia. I've been working. I'm the founder of Unique Child Academy and Buyegi Trust Fund, which is a development organization and an inclusive school, which include learners with neurodevelopmental disorders here in Iringa. For the past 7 years, we have been focusing on early intervention for autism and in and other neurodevelopmental disorder. I'll explain more why every time I mention autism, I have to say and other neurodevelopmental disorder, particularly when we are dealing with early intervention. Yeah, so that's brief about me, and let's continue. Okay. For the interest of time, I should mention this as well. Autism is not just a topic to me. I'm a mother. I have an 11-year-old son with autism. It's a mild autism. So I've lived it for the past 11 years in and out. So I've not only learned in book, but I've experienced it personally. Yeah, so every time I train people about neurodevelopmental disorders, I do for the purpose to dispel myths because in Africa, particularly in Tanzania, there are a lot of myths around neurodevelopmental disorders. So I'm here also today. I hope I'll dispel some myths. If you have any, I don't know if we have a chat box, you can be sharing the chats, the myths that you have or the question or anything. If I'm moving speedy, you want me to go slow down, you can just share it in the chat as well. Any question which will have as I go along, you can also share it in the chat and I'll address them accordingly. I also train for the purpose to spread hope because I know some here who are parents, some are teachers, and sometimes when people receive a diagnosis, your child has a neurodevelopmental disorder, they may become hopeless, but there is hope. Indeed, there is hope, a big hope, and I'm here to spread that. And also, I do like to insist on strength and not deficits. Honestly, people with neurodevelopmental disorder, it doesn't matter, it's autism, dyslexia, and others, as I will mention later, they have lots of strengths, despite some deficits that we will focus on for the purpose of learning. But there are a lot of strength, and I should say it at the beginning because for the interest of time, I may not mention the strengths today, but they are there and a lot of them. But for the interest of time, today we are just focusing on autism and dyslexia, and I want to highlight where do they connect and where do they differ. And I would like to begin with this. It's a statement that was mentioned by an educator, Rita Pearson. And it's an encouragement to everyone working with these children. Every child deserves a champion, and adults will never give up on them and insist that they become the best they can possibly be. Just as we all need mentors, everyone needs mentors in life. More specifically, they need it most. We need to hold their hand. They need someone to believe in them and to show them, to help them be what they can be. Because yes, they come to the world with lots of potential. And throughout the time that we'll have together, I'll take you through the categories of neurodevelopmental diversities, and we'll highlight a little bit about autism, what it is, dyslexia, what it is, so that we can see the similarities and the differences. I'll also mention on the comorbidities among neurodevelopmental disorders, and we will focus now specifically on autism and dyslexia. Where do they differ? And finally, you'll have time for question and answer. As I've said, as I go along, you can be, every time you get a question, please put it in the chat so that we'll not forget it. Yeah, so according to DSM-5, there are 6 different categories of neurodevelopmental disorders, and each one of them
Dr.
is
Amir, I'm
different.
sorry.
Yes, yes.
Would you mind putting your screen to full screen?
To full screen. Oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah,
I can do
it
that.
would look
Yeah,
better. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. So, according to DSM-5, there are 6 different categories of neurodevelopmental disorders. We have intellectual disabilities, communication disorders, we have autism spectrum disorders, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and we have neurodevelopmental motor disorders, including tic disorder and specific learning disorders. And you should not, dyslexia fall under the 6th group, which is the dyslexia comes in the group of specific learning disorders. And it is specific learning disorders because people can learning is more than just reading, writing, and arithmetic. So it's only specific part of learning that are affected. That's why it is called specific learning disorders. Yeah, so in brief, what is autism? Autism is a neurodevelopmental condition, just like the rest of the 6 group categories. That is, autism is characterized by 3 things. Every time you see autism, you have to see persistent challenges in social communication, social interaction, and restricted and repetitive pattern of behavior, interest, or activities. So these are the 3 symptoms of autism. And the term spectrum reflects the wide range of manifestation and severity levels. So we have those who are severely challenged, we call level 3, and we have those with mild symptoms, we call it level 1. So autism is level 1, level 2, and level 3. And we will see, I'll see the symptoms of autism across lifespan. I'll take you quickly because there's also another place where we're going to address this one. At the infancy, 0 to 2 years, they have limited eye contact and social smiling. They have delayed babbling and lack of gestures. And in early childhood, 3 to 5 years, they have difficulty with pretend play, challenging in understanding social cues. And this is verbal. They have difficulties in both verbal and non-verbal. You should understand it's both verbal and non-verbal. In middle childhood, 6 to 12 years, they struggle with peer relationship. They have intense focus on specific interest and really struggle when you want them to change or do another activity. They have difficulty with abstract thinking. To them, they prefer the real world, the real item to see, and as things that they can see, they can manipulate in the real world. They have challenges in understanding social norms. And in learning needs, the students with autism, they experience challenges in academics. Some of them, they have difficulty with reading comprehension, writing, and mathematics. So this is something maybe that might look similar with dyslexia, but it doesn't happen to all. It doesn't happen to all. It's not a symptom of autism. You can find someone with autism who excel in academic and doesn't have any challenges with reading and comprehension and writing. Some are very genius in these areas. They have challenges in executive functioning. They get very upset when you change routine. This is very common to most of them. They like order and strict routine, like every day should be the same day, and they are very organized. Many of them, they have sensory needs. Many individuals with autism, they have atypical sensory processing, and some of them, they are over reacting to stimulus such as light, sound, texture, and smell, and some of them are underreacting. And this may make them to have the sensory seeking behavior, and also sensory escaping behaviors. They may be engaging in repetitive movement or seeking specific sensory experiences, as well as escaping certain sensory experiences because of the sensory needs. They also have behavior needs, and the behavior characteristics may include repetitive behavior, which is common to all of them, engaging in routines or repetitive movement. Some have some repetitive sounds, and some they are doing this to self-regulate. So it's something they do for pleasure. Sometimes it's something they do maybe for sensory seeking or sensory escaping, as I mentioned earlier. And they have difficulty with change, challenges in adapting to new routine or environment. When they resist change, they show some certain kind of behavior, which can be very challenging to people who are working with them. And we say severity of the repetitive behavior do limits their functioning and concentration in other areas of life, such as learning. So some, because they really like to do certain things, they may not give chance or opportunity to learning other things at school, and this can help make them suffer in certain areas of learning in school. Yeah, so I mentioned the 6 categories of neurodevelopmental diversities, but I say today we are only going to focus on 2 of them. The first one was autism spectrum disorder, and the 6th one was specific learning difficulties. As I mentioned earlier, here is where we find dyslexia. So specific learning difficulty, it's a range of conditions that affect specific aspects of learning. And they include dyslexia, which affect reading, dyscalculia, which affect math, dysgraphia, which affect writing, and dyspraxia, which affects motor coordination, among others. There are like 7 of them. Here I've mentioned only 4. There are like 7 of them. We call them this constellation. There are like 7 of them. We mentioned this based on the severity. These are the most prevalent. They are most prevalent in a typical population. So the individual difficulty must not be, for a person to be categorized under specific learning difficulties, these that I've mentioned, their difficulties should not be better explained by other developmental, neurological, or sensory, such as vision or hearing or motor disorders. And they must significantly interfere with academic achievement, occupational performance, or activities of daily living. Yeah, so for a person to be diagnosed with specific learning difficulties, it should not be associated with any neurological or sensory disability. For dyslexia, for example, it is estimated that 5 to 15% of school-age children struggle with the learning disability. And dyslexia is the most prevalent of all this constellation, because an estimated 80% of those with learning disorders, they have an impairment in reading. In particular, it is referred to as dyslexia. So dyslexia is very common, and it affects in a typical population, it's 5 to 20 of the population. Different studies have indicated different number, but all of the studies have a range of 5 to 20% of the typical population. So dyslexia is very prevalent, and it affects more males than female, almost twice, because different studies differ on the number of prevalence between male and female, but it's almost twice. So specific learning disorder often occur along with other neurodevelopmental disorders such as ADHD and with anxiety. I will mention this in the next slide on the co-occurring and comorbidity of the neurodevelopmental disorders. And dyslexia is defined as unexpected difficulty in learning to read. Dyslexia takes away an individual's ability to read quickly and automatically, and to retrieve spoken words easily. But it does not dampen their creativity and ingenuity. Just like autism, dyslexia is also a spectrum, with symptoms ranging from almost unnoticeable. There are people who have dyslexia and people cannot even notice. And maybe themselves, they don't notice because the struggle is minimal. But there are people with dyslexia who have visible and very challenging struggles that everyone can notice. So it is a spectrum, just like autism. And the problem in reading may begin even before learning to read. For example, children with dyslexia may have trouble with breaking down spoken words into syllabi or recognizing words that rhyme. I'll show this example later. People with dyslexia often have difficulty connecting letters they see on a page with the sound that they make. For example, when they see letter B, in their head, they know it's letter B, but remembering the sound what sound does it make? So connecting the two, it's really hard for them. So as a result, reading becomes slow and effortful, and it's not a fluent process for them. People with dyslexia may also have difficulty with writing accuracy and spelling, because for them, in their head, they may have maybe in their head, they are thinking of B, but when they write, it comes something else. There's that disconnection between what they're thinking and what they are communicating. Yeah. So to be diagnosed with a specific learning disorder, a person must meet the 4 criteria. They must have difficulty in at least one of the following areas for at least 6 months despite intervention. So if for a person to be diagnosed with specific learning difficulties, a person, we say a person must be in an intervention for more than 6 months, a targeted intervention, and the problem does not disappear. And it shows in difficulty in reading, such as inaccurate, slow, and only with much effort, difficulty understanding the meaning of what is read, difficulty with spelling, difficult with written expressions such as grammar, punctuation, and organization, and difficulty understanding number concepts, number facts, or calculation. We'll also see some of this example later. Difficulty with mathematical reasons such as applying mathematical concepts or solving math problems. Yeah, as I just mentioned the symptoms, maybe you have seen things that look similar between autism and dyslexia, or maybe you have spot the differences. You can chat them you can write them in the chat as an activity. You can write in the chat, what similarity have you noticed just by mentioning the symptoms, and what are the things that you see are different? You can have that activity in the chat. I wanted to mention on the comorbidities among neurodevelopmental disorders, because comorbidity is the presence of 2 or more disease medical condition in a patient. So in other terms, we say co-occurring conditions. So in neurodevelopmental disorder, there is high rate of comorbidity between various disorders. There is a high rate of comorbidity. And we actually say comorbidity in neurodevelopmental disorders, it's a rule. It's not an exception. It's a common thing. It's something that happens everywhere. So when you see someone with a diagnosis of autism and dyslexia together, it's not an exception. It's not a strange thing. It's something that happens so much. It's a very common thing. And various studies have shown that 22 to 83% of children with autism also have symptoms of ADHD. I mentioned this in the ADHD. It's one of the categories of neurodevelopmental disorders, and 30 to 60%, 65% of those with ADHD have clinically significant symptoms of autism. So it's not although it's not part of the criteria of autism, sometimes autism has accompanying intellectual and language impairment. It's very common. It's very common, even though it's not a criteria for autism. But for autism, it's so much accompanied with intellectual and language impairment. And studies have shown that over 62% of dyslexic people have other co-occurring conditions. So you can see it's a very common thing. More than 62% have other conditions. So like dyslexia and autism, or dyslexia and something else. And some have even multiple, more than 2. They can have 3: dyslexia, autism, and intellectual impairment. There are people who have such diagnosis. Yeah. As I mentioned already, comorbidities, it's a rule. It's not an exception. So we also say, however, that even though the comorbidities are very common, some people do have only dyslexia and not any other thing. There are people who have only autism and not another thing. There are people who have, yes, it also occurs independently in isolation with other neurodevelopmental disorders. So the chance of a dyslexic to have ADHD is about 40%, and dyslexia to have autism is about 6 to 30%. A chance for dyslexia to have opposition defiant disorder, ODD, is 17%. ODD is a mental disorder. I didn't mention it in the categories of neurodevelopmental disorder. So here is where we are going to see the differences between autism and dyslexia. I have two big columns. I want to be reading each word, but I hope you're skimming through. Here is where we see the differences between autism and dyslexia. They are two different things. For example, during preschool years, when you see in autism, all the symptoms that you see in preschool year on your left, I hope we are sharing the sides. On your left is autism, on your right is dyslexia. And I've indicated the symptoms that show up at each age level. For example, during preschool, for autism, they have limited eye contact and social smiling. They have delayed bumbling and lack of gestures. They have difficulty with pretend play. They have challenging in understanding social cue. They also frequently experience sensory issues. Sensory issues are very prevalent for children with autism, like they being picky eaters, extremely picky eaters. You will find a child with autism only wanting white food and not wanting different type of food to touch each other. They will say if you're giving them rice with beans, rice should have its own side and beans should have its own side. They should not touch each other. And that is what they wanted to be served. Also, they can be sensitive to sounds, smells, or bright lights, or getting upset about materials that are not soft in their body, such as tag on clothing. They can be reacting, and because they don't communicate, they don't say it. All this will be shown in a kind of behavior that they show. If they don't want a certain food, they won't say, "I don't want this food." They will just maybe push aside the food when you are giving them, or they will go around the table and smell all the foods to differentiate between the types that they want. Or some they can be licking food. So it's what they in the sensory issue, it shows in terms of behavior. And that's why I say for autism, there's a lot of behavior issue, which is not necessarily there in dyslexia. Yeah, the only behavior issue which you may say you will see in dyslexia, maybe it's anxiety, because they know the struggle they take to read. They may have anxiety, and as they grow up, they may have low self-esteem based on the treatment they are getting from the people around them. So for dyslexia, the common sign is troubled learning common nursery rhymes such as Jack and Jill. It's becoming hard for them. Difficult learning and remembering the names of letters in the alphabet. You may find a child, today they've mastered all the letters, tomorrow they forget all of them. It's an issue in the working memory. They forget completely, seem unable to recognize letters in her own name. Maybe they can write their own name, but to tell them to spell the letters in their own name, they don't know. Or they forget. Today you teach them, tomorrow they forget, mispronounce unfamiliar words, persistent baby talk when they are preschool, doesn't recognize rhyming pattern like cat, bat, and rat. A family history. Dyslexia often runs in family, and this is common also in autism. We say autism also runs in family. They both are similar in that matter. They both run in family. So in the family history, you will get some glimpse of the reoccurrence of the condition. In autism, during kindergarten and first grade, they struggle with peer relationships, intense focus in specific interest, very upset in changing routine, poor eye contact, and echolalia. Echolalia is when they repeat everything that you are saying. It's like everything that you're saying, or they get one word that they will be singing throughout, like for the whole week or the whole month, is that one word that is ringing in their head. That is echolalia. Yeah, and for autism, for dyslexia, they have reading errors that show no connection to the sound of the letters of the page. They will say puppy. For a person with dyslexia may have, like, they see the word written dog because they know it's a dog, or maybe they commonly call it the puppy. They will just say what they see because they know it. So they will not necessarily read the word dog. They just say puppy because that's what they normally, they know it is puppy, but they can't read the word dog. Or maybe they see dog, but in their mind, they say puppy. Does not understand that words come apart. They complain how hard reading is, and they sometimes disappear when it's time to read because they know it's so difficult to them. And they must have a history of reading problem in parents or siblings because it ran in family. And second grade through high school, for autism, they have difficulty with abstract thinking. As I said earlier, for a person with autism, if you want them to understand what you're saying, you have to use the real objects or pictures. If you are saying tomorrow we are going to the market, that is abstract to them. And unless you bring the market in the form of a picture and saying tomorrow we are going to the market, so they see actually where they are going. If you don't do that, they will not be able to associate what you are saying with the place actually where you are taking them. And because it's difficult for them to adapt to changes, you may see it difficult with abstract thinking, may appear also in the form of behavior. Because you'll be mentioning at school, tomorrow we are going to the mountain, and when it's time to go to the mountain, they refuse to go because you didn't prepare them enough. They don't know where you're taking them. Maybe you're kidnapping them. So when you're saying tomorrow we are going to the mountain, you have to bring that picture of the mountain and say, tomorrow we are going here. Oh, tomorrow we are going to visit your grandparents. You have to bring the picture of the grandparents. So to make it real, tomorrow we are going to visit your grandparents. They associate what you're saying with the real image of grandparents. Then when the day comes, we're going to grandparents, they understand, okay, and when they go there, because they have difficulty with abstract thinking. They have challenges in understanding social norms, and it will also show up as a behavior. For example, they can have challenges with boundaries. If they like a certain thing and it is with their friend in school, they will just go and grab it because they don't understand that if you want somebody's item, you go and request, can I have it? That's the social norm. So they have to be taught social norm. If you don't teach them consistently, and we say you teach the social norm in the place where it occurs. You don't come to a classroom to teach them how to behave in a restaurant because a classroom is not a restaurant. If you to teach the social norm of a restaurant, you have to be with them at a restaurant and teach them to behave appropriately there. That's also associated with abstract thinking. So you cannot take a lesson of going to the market and teach it in the classroom. You have to take them to the market to teach them the behavior and the expectation at the marketplace. And that is their challenge. They may experience delay in language processing, such as being able to read but not understand the content. Yes, they also they take time. You say even when you are giving them instruction, whether it's written or verbal, you need to give them some times before you can expect a response. So this is common to autism. They may read, and before they give you a response, maybe some need prompts to get to understand what is it that they have read and what is the response they're supposed to make. And it depends on the severity of the condition. They struggle in taking complex verbal instruction. You cannot tell them that go to class and bring me a book. That's very complex. They may want you to break it in a small, simple instruction that go to class, and while they are at class, you tell them, give me that book. So that's the kind of instruction. They prefer simple, straightforward instruction. Yes. And when they see what you're telling them, it's easy for them to respond than when they don't see it. They often very rigid in their behavior and interest and prefer to spend time alone because they struggle to participate in social situation. Yeah, so it's really hard to change them in what they like and they can be that rigid. Even in class, if they prefer to study mathematics, if it's time to change for a math teacher to go and bring another teacher, you have to prepare them. We say you have to change in a way that you prepare them, because if you do it abruptly or it's not happened the way it has been happening, it will show up in a way of a behavior, and that behavior may seem like truancy or that, but it's just that you didn't prepare them, and they would prefer doing what they have been doing or what they like than, yeah. So you can see the differences as you see in the column. At the same age, for dyslexia, it appears in reading, such as very slow in acquiring reading skills. Reading is slow and awkward, trouble in reading unfamiliar words, often making wild guesses because he cannot sound out the word. And the people with dyslexia are very smart at guessing. If you want them to read and they know they can't read, they'll find a way to know what is the item there, maybe through the pictures, or they can guess, and they are very good at guessing. So you can you may think that they are reading, but actually they can guess. But if it's a long sentence, it's hard to know that they are guessing, because you can't guess a sentence with 20 words or 40 words. Because they are very intelligent. People with dyslexia, they are good at guessing, and because of their intelligence, they can fake their condition. They doesn't seem to have a strategy for reading new words, and they avoid reading out aloud. But some prefer reading out aloud so that they can understand, and this also may show up in autism. They prefer reading aloud to get what they are reading. And in speaking, they search for a specific word and end up using vague words such as stuff or thing without naming the object, especially when they want to say, I need a jug, or we took that jug. They'll say, we took that stuff, because the word jug does not come faster. They say, oh, that thing, I've taken it, because they're still figuring it. What's the name of that thing? Yeah, they pauses and hesitate and use a lot of when speaking, because they take time to think of words. Words don't come easily to their mouth. They may have a word in their head, but struggle to bring the similar word in a spoken or in speech. They confuse words that sound alike, such as saying tornado for volcano, substituting lotion for ocean, because to them they appear similar, mispronunciation of long, unfamiliar, or complicated words. And they seem to need extra time to respond to questions. This can be even in the written questions. In the written question, it's even more. They need extra time to respond to questions, because they have issues with comprehension, to understand what they have read, or they may read a sentence. They can read aloud a sentence very well, but if you want them to respond, you will come to know that they have read, but they've not understood what it means. Yeah, because they will give you a wrong answer to something which you see like maybe they know it, but it's because they have not comprehended the information that they've read in the text. So in school and life, you'll see like they have trouble remembering dates. They have trouble remembering names. Tomorrow they will call you Teacher Susie. Your name is Susie, but tomorrow they may call you a similar name that looks like Susie, because that's the name that comes first when they see you. Or if you look alike, like someone that they know, they will give you the name of that person, because it's the first that comes before the name. They have trouble with telephone number, random list. They struggle to finish tests on time, so they need longer time to finish assignments, especially when it's written. They need a significant amount of time to finish it. They have a difficulty in learning a foreign language. They have poor spelling, some have messy handwriting, mixing the words that look alike, the letters like look alike, like D and B, mixing them. or 3 and 6 and 9, yes. They may have low self-esteem that may not be immediately visible, because when students struggle or they have this condition, they know that they are struggling. And I say the low self-esteem comes from the response that they get from others. Yes, and it makes them to know that people look down on them because maybe they don't know it, and that affect their self-esteem. This it's the last slide. After here, I will invite you for question, and there are several things that make autism and dyslexia look alike. First of all, is because both have issues with the language system. Even though in autism, it's more about not understanding social cues, resulting in awkward responses, whereas in dyslexia, it's more of a struggle decoding and putting together words, their sounds and meanings. So they both have issue in language system, but in different ways. So, but unless someone has both autism and dyslexia, then you'll see both of these appearing. That a person does not understand social cues and also at the same time struggle with decoding and putting together words. Autism vary in severity. This also is similar with dyslexia, because dyslexia also vary in severity. Even though in autism, we have a way to categorize it into 3 levels. Our autism, the current diagnosis of autism is level 1, level 2, and level 3, depending on the level of severity. The mildest form is level 1, which was previously known as Asperger's syndrome. That is autism level 1 with the current diagnosis of SDM5. And in level 1, they have excellent hearing, they have best pronunciation, best decoding and spelling skills. But they also, even though they are best in all this, they still lack in responding to them in a way that is assumed to be socially normal, because to them it's a social norm that they struggle the most. Individuals with severe level 3 of autism often have most of the time they have low intelligence, and they may need assistance with feeding, clothing, and daily routine. But so the only difference is that we understand that also dyslexia is a spectrum. The severity differs. But we have, I know the 6 different types of dyslexia, but they don't come in level. It's come in which area is affected most. Some are affected in word recognition, some are affected in the visual and in the reading. So that is where they differ. They are all vary in severity, but in autism, the level of severity can be established, can be ascertained. We say we know the level of difference of the level of severity of autism based on the support a person need to function normally. Yeah, but we cannot ascertain the levels of severity in dyslexia, though it's clear when you see a person and how they struggle. Yeah, you can understand that maybe this is a more severe level of dyslexia than the one that you have seen. But in all, what I can say to summarize, when we say in autism, when you have seen one person with autism, you have seen one person with autism, because it manifests differently to different people. Not 2 people with autism are the same. And this can be the case with dyslexia as well, because they are both a spectrum and they show manifest differently to different people. I should end up here and see if there is any question or yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miriam. You've been very detailed in explanation, and we are grateful for your time. We are going to go straight to the questions that people have asked. And the first question on the chat, we have a request that you should share your slides. I hope you don't mind sharing your slides with us.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'll share. Yeah.
So you'll share with me, and then we can share with everyone who's interested.
I'll do that. Yeah, sure.
So the first question, Dr. Miriam, is what is the right age to test for dyslexia?
Okay, for all for specific learning disorders, as I mentioned them, for all specific learning disorder, dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dysgraphia, it's safe to diagnose them at the age of 7, we say, because below the age of 5, children do born with a lot of issues that they can manifest differently during the childhood stage. So people should not worry until the age of 7, I should say, because at that age is when we really expect a child to develop the mastery of reading and yes, and it's actually can be different from boys to girls. Girls do acquire some competency in reading, writing, maybe early, especially the issue of language. Girls develop earlier than boys. So I should say from 7 to 9, maybe. But we say because early intervention is key, to support these children, we at below the age of 7, we should not wait for diagnosis. We should address any sign or symptoms that shows that a child is having a challenge. So if you have a child, maybe a preschooler at the age of 3, and you see maybe they have a challenge in identifying colors, or they have a challenge in remembering the sounds and the letters, you should not wait for diagnosis, but rather you should help them in that particular area at that time, because what they need is help to be able to master that thing. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miriam. I see a hand from Dr. Vincent. Dr. Vincent, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. for this presentation. It was a good and well presented, and I have several questions. You forgive me because I might have quite a number of questions. Now, you have talked of the age of dyslexia. I don't know if there's a specific age for us to diagnose children with ADHD, with ASD. That's the first question. So the age at which age do we suspect that a child might be having ASD? Then the second one, that's just a follow-up of that, is you have talked of 3 levels, 1, 2, and 3. I will be interested, or maybe the audience, or one of the audience might be interested like me. How do we separate the 3 borderlines that now this is level 1, and this is level 2, and this is level 3? What makes us to separate the 3 borderlines that we can say this is mild 1, this is 2, this is 3? And where do we place the other types of autism which were there, which had been identified by DSM-5? I know if you have specialized in this, you are aware of them. The Rett disorders, the Asperger, which you have mentioned, and the others. Where do we place them? Where do they range? In 1, 2, and 3. That's something that can also be made clear to the audience. And maybe, is there any relationship between maybe autism and diet? Do we have any relationship between these two? And last but not least of this, which is the comorbidity between dyslexia and autism? Which one is the comorbidity of the other? Which one is the secondary? Which one is the primary? Which one, are they sisters? Or how do we come to a correlation between these 2 conditions? Thank you so much, Dr. for listening to this.
Asante sana, Dr. Vincent. If I've captured your question right, I've seen like there are 3 4 different questions. I must have missed one. If right, you just tell me. The first one you said about age. Which age is right to diagnose autism? Different from dyslexia, autism, I think it's something which is it's very visible if you are keen enough. Apart from dyslexia, because dyslexia affects reading, and reading happen later in life. You know, unless you're a specialist, then you know the association of reading. If a child is struggling to differentiate colors, you understand it has an association with reading. If a child is struggling to tell apart the shape and matching, you understand that it signify something in the reading. So for dyslexia, because those are the things that they happen later in life, maybe at age 5, 7, it really depends on the environment that the child is. But for autism, it's very visible, and it can be diagnosed as early as 18 months. Because when they say they don't give you eye contact, it's something that they do it in a way that you can't ignore it. So if and some they have other signs like delayed in speech, which by 18 months a child does not speak in even a single word. So for autism, as early as 18 months, you can diagnose it, even though they say it's safe to wait until 3 years. It really depends on the advancement of the technology that people and the tools that people are using for diagnosis. So let's say it's safe between 18 months to 3 years, which is 36 months for autism. And the levels you've said, how do you differentiate between level 1, level 2, and level 3? I should tell you that diagnosis of autism, we're using forms which are very long, and they really help to address each and every item of an individual. And based on the diagnosis tools that you're using, it at the end of the day, when you translate the findings, the data that you've collected in the tools that you're using to diagnose autism, it is the tool itself that will place the individual in the levels. Okay, but if I can say, like, the simple thing that we use is the level of the how far the repetitive behavior affects the daily function of an individual. That's the most outstanding symptoms that you can work on. But the tool itself, because we are using the tool to diagnose it, so the tool itself will place an individual in the level. As you translate the data you have collected of an individual, then you'll come to know it's level 1, it's level 2, or it's level 3. So it's something that comes after you have used the appropriate tool for diagnosis. Your third question was autism and food. Is there an association of autism and food? And I will ask you, do you mean the food that causes autism, or are there that food which bring a problem for people with autism? Can you please help me clarify the question before you respond?
Well, people say, and some suggest, and still researches are still being done,
Yeah.
that there must some specific kind of food that heighten the hyperactivity of children suspected of having autism, or rather the 3 levels that you have just mentioned. So do you think there's any relationship based on your findings, and being that you're specialized in this condition?
Yeah, thank you for your question. Yes, the first thing I should say, for the causes of autism, we say many studies say that the causes of autism are unknown, but we are scientists. We cannot continue say we don't know for how long. It's a combination of autism, of genetics and environment. It's a combination of genetics and environment that make a person to have autism. So we cannot say food causes autism. And no, we cannot say food causes autism, because there are people who say that maybe a vaccine causes autism. That has been scientifically established that no vaccine causes autism. And I can say with all confidence, with all scientific confidence, that no food can cause autism. Food by
Maybe
itself,
Dr.
even though we are very much aware that for those who are hyperactive, and for autism generally, we do say they thrive well in a gluten-free diet. Gluten-free diet.
Just to
Yeah.
come in, Dr. I didn't mean that the food causes autism. I said that heightens their hyperactivity, which is one of the characteristics.
Yeah, sure. It is. The food heightens the symptoms, the characteristics of autism. So we do say that they should not be given food with too much sweet sugar. Processed food are not good for them, and the gluten is not good for them because it really increases the hyperactivity, and it also causes them, those with the issue, they have issues with constipation, they have issue with sleep, they have issues, yes. So all those they have these are, if you deal with just diet, you help to minimize a lot of challenges for a person with autism. If you just focus on a good diet, you are minimizing a lot of problem or a lot of challenges for people with autism. So that's right. And you have also, your fourth question was on the comorbidities. Which comorbidities are first and second and third? As I said, that for comorbidities in neurodevelopmental disorder generally, comorbidities are very common and they happen across the categories. You can't say which one is more, which one is first, primary or secondary, even though we know for dyslexia, anxiety, and ADHD are very common. For dyslexia, and anxiety and ADHD are very common. For autism, what I can say, epilepsy has been established to be very common, epilepsy, and also intellectual impairment for some of them. So, and ADHD also. ADHD has been running across all the groups, but for autism, what is more prevalent comorbidity has been epilepsy, and seizure, and different kind of seizures, and also intellectual impairment for some of them, even though we have those with savant abilities where their IQ are above normal. But majority, for example, level 3, you see a lot of symptoms of intellectual impairment. So for comorbidities, that's how I can respond. Yeah. I just want to be sure I've addressed all your questions and I haven't missed any of them.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Miriam. Thank you, Dr. Vincent, for helping us understand more. The second point was from Lucy. Lucy just said that the similarity, ADHD sensitive to visual and auditory stimuli, difficulty decoding and expressing themselves verbally. So that's a point from Lucy Y. Ferrero. And of course, the second one, I think that one, does it need you to address anything?
No, I think she was responding to the activity that I said. As I go through the symptoms, if you see anything that the similarity, you can share them in the chat. I think she was just responding, and yeah, we thank her for engaging. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
so we are moving on to the second one. Is autism curable? That's the question she's asking. One person is asking if you can cure autism.
Yeah, we do say for all neurodevelopmental conditions, these are lifelong conditions. Yes, we can minimize the symptoms. Yes, with the early intervention and proper therapies, yes, a person can live independent life, but they carry they carry the condition throughout life. It will still manifest in certain ways as they go up. But it's not a disease like malaria. We say you take these tablets and it's gone. No, we manage it through the therapies and interventions. And yes, we minimize symptoms. And yes, we help individuals live independent life. But yes, it is a lifelong condition. They go with it throughout life. Even though they become independent, they live independent life, productive life, but still have the diagnosis with them that, like, yes, they are autistic. Yeah, so it's a lifelong condition. We treat it to help them manage their life and become independent, but we cannot take it away. Yeah.
Thank you so much, doctor, for that. So it's a lifelong condition. You cannot cure it, but you can manage. From Priscilla. Priscilla is saying, I have a 15-year-old daughter who contracted meningeal encephalitis at 9 months. Since then, things have been very rough, very tough. She has had very delayed milestones. Though she has grown to make several sentences, it's hard for her to learn. I have placed her in a special school. She's so aggressive and beats whoever doesn't allow her to do what she wants. She likes sitting by the roadside and crossing roads. So she must always be with her father or me to control her tempers and movements. Is there any remedy for her condition? Can she be classified as autistic? Or what classification of special child is she? Are there any supplements to improve her memory, concentration, and schoolwork? Kindly help. Dr. Miriam, please help.
Yes, I thank you. I can hear you. I can hear you, Priscilla. And yes, there is hope for your daughter. And much of what you have said have medical explanation. If you have not done it, I will first advise you meet with a doctor. Maybe he's not a child any longer, but pediatric neurologists are good if not a psychiatrist, because some of the conditions you have mentioned, like aggression and the behaviors that might be of in danger to her, they need to be addressed, and I know they can be addressed, and they can really go down. The education part, yes, we have supplements for memories. This is what we have been doing for all children, without even knowing their diagnosis. We do say we take the fish oil. The fish oil has been good for increasing memory. We do tell people to the almond seeds. So they're in a good food. That's what I know. But if you want the medical one, they have to be prescribed by a doctor, by a medical doctor. And everything that you have mentioned, I know that they have the answer once you meet with a professional, because we don't diagnose people by just the explanation. You have to see the child, you have to see the diagnosis. It's a process. So I cannot just read this and tell you this. I'll be lying. We don't do that. So you really need to meet with a doctor, with a pediatric neurologist, or a psychiatrist, or a special need specialist for educational purposes. And I know you will get answers. All of what you have mentioned, they have answers, and there is hope for your daughter. That's all I can say. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Dr. Miriam. Maybe for more intervention, for more help, I would suggest that Priscilla, please take my number. It's on the chat. I can connect you with Dr. Miriam for further assistance now that she has a special school. Maybe you can connect more after the session and get more help. Maybe she can connect you with a specialist. So please take my number. It's on the chat, 0688 535848, and then I can connect you with Dr. Miriam for further. Dr. Miriam, someone is asking that you should shed some light on social language disorder. Social language disorder.
On the social language disorder? Yes,
Yes.
as I tell you, I can explain it in the light of autism. I can explain it in the language in the light of autism, where because with autism we know that one of the areas that they have maximum struggle is the social norms, understanding, and the social interaction, and just the understanding of the social rules in general. So I'm not sure if you are speaking of because there is something called communication disorders, which is a different group, different category of neurodevelopmental disorder. But for people with autism, they have difficulties understanding the social rules and the social norms. Like we all know that if you meet a person, you have to greet them. A person with autism may have language, but still meet people and go blank, like not greeting them. That can appear like a social language disorder because they have language, they can be verbal, they talk. Because with autism, we have those who cannot talk. We call them nonverbal. Though in my experience working with them, some develop language later, speech, very late in life. They might not be like those who are deaf. Maybe no, for autism, they may be delayed to have speech, but they have speech later in life. And even though they have speech, people with autism still will prefer not talking and use actions. It's like talking make them tired. So they may be verbal with the ability to express themselves to a certain level, but still prefer to use action and not words unless you insist them. Maybe that to you may fit to your definition of a social language disorder. But yeah, that's what I can say. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miriam. And there's someone asking, does autism and dyslexia contribute to deafness?
I can say no, a strong no. There's no study, we don't have evidence to establish that statement. Maybe because we also do say, even though and I want to treat autism and dyslexia differently now, even though people with autism may be late to speak, but we really have to establish that they hear. Before we can say it's autism, we have to establish that this person is not deaf. Okay, so even for dyslexia, before we can say that, because for people with for the deaf people, or much of what I know, they also struggle with learning. They have their own portion of struggle in learning, in reading and writing. It's become hard to them because of their condition, being deaf. But for a person to qualify for autism and dyslexia diagnosis, it has to be established by doctor that they are not deaf. And it has no association. Autism and dyslexia does not cause deafness or does not enhance deafness. No, maybe the deafness comes for other reasons, but we cannot associate at this point with autism and dyslexia. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miriam. Someone is asking where your school is. I think you mentioned it in Iringa.
Iringa town. Yeah, it's in Iringa at the Iringa Municipal. It's right behind Lugalo Secondary School. It's very close to town. It's like 5 minutes walk from Iringa, the center of the town. So we are located in a place called Wilolesi. It's right behind Lugalo Secondary School. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And for those interested in a contact for Dr. Miriam, just inbox me and I'll share her number. Okay, so can you have social language disorder and not be autistic? Can you have social language disorder and not be autistic? That's a question for you, Dr. Miriam.
I should not pretend to be a social language expert. I understand much about autism, and I can speak if you would have twist your question to start with autism, I would have been in a position to answer it very well. Because I understand all the language issues associated with autism. And I know people who have communication disorder and they are not autistic. Yes. So you can have a communication disorder. If I put social language disorder in a group of communication disorders, you can have a communication disorder without being autistic. Yes, you can have that.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Vincent, do you have anything to add to this question of social language disorder?
It was on social language disorder and not be autistic. Well, I can't mention so much, but what Dr. has just mentioned is very key, that in autism, one of the key issues that affects the children are communication ability. And that is one of the triads of impairment that normally affects a child with autism. So if you talk of this and the socialization part of it, because you will find out that majority of the children with autism might be affected by the social aspect. They might not be, they have what you call alone play, A-L-O-N-E, alone. They want to be alone to play. So their social language might be affected. That is what Dr. has just mentioned, that one of the causes of autism is environmental, how we bring up our children. When we lock our children at home, they don't associate, therefore, their social language might not be able to develop. And there's a researcher who did a study in terms of language development. There's a guy called I've forgotten his name, but he did a study and came up with two findings. One is basic social interpersonal skills, which is forming the social languages. That is the language that you communicate every day. For instance, how are you? Where is your home? How are your people? These basic languages. So if you don't socialize with the people within the environment, to learn those kind of languages might be a problem. And that might be an issue to children with autism. So there is a close relationship also, which we can say that social language disorder might be a relationship between a social language disorder and autistic children, because socialization and communication are one of the triads of impairments that children with autism are having. So I think there's a close relationship. So we can't run away from the social language disorder, because if at all they don't have communication skills per se as a typically developing child, then there is a likelihood that the child is having, some characteristics of autism, which can be placed in the 3 levels that have been identified by Dr. So that's what I can say at the moment.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vincent, for your addition. I'm bringing this session to an end with a few remarks, because we normally have it for 1 hour and it's already 16 minutes past since our 1 hour ended. So I'm grateful for your attendance, and I'm once again wishing you happy Eid. It's been Eid all over, so I was worried people will not attend. I'm so grateful that you made time to attend this important session. Dr. Miriam, thank you so much for this amazing session. You've been very grateful.
Pleasure.
You've been very thoughtful and helpful. Now, Dr. Vincent, thank you also for attending. Your input has not gone in vain. We appreciate your presence and your time to attend this session. And to all of us, we are going to have a session again next week. Please don't miss. And if you can inbox me any topic you want us to cover, I will certainly make sure I get you an expert who can talk on that subject. I have various experts in many places. Like we can get anyone even from the UK, from the US. Last week we had Dr. Vincent, who brought us an amazing session. So please just inbox me your topics so that I can help get an expert to share with us on those topics. We are also planning events like a talent show, and we are welcoming any children with different abilities to showcase their talents. By so doing, we are trying to show the community that despite all the challenges these children go through, they are able to be people in the community. They are able to do something and achieve something in life. So we are trying to change the mindset of our community. Please let us work together. We would like to have people participate. We would like your support in many ways, like paying for a child. We have people here in Arusha who would like to attend and they're not able to pay, and we have expenses. So we welcome you to support us in any way possible. It will happen on 4th of May in Arusha in SSF Plaza. Welcome. It's on 1st floor. Welcome, and we appreciate your support. Have a wonderful evening, and let's continue chatting. My number is on the chat. You can inbox me. I'm going to share the slides from Dr. Miriam, and any questions are welcome. We can even have Dr. Miriam come back on this platform and share more with us. Dr. Miriam, again, I'm grateful for your time and for your information that you've shared with us. Thank you so much. I
Thank
don't
you for
have
having
much
me.
more to
Thank
say.
you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Mommy, GA.